All right, so earlier this summer during SEC Media Days, South Carolina defender Tonka Hemingway said something that I thought was really dumb. Someone asked him about South Carolina's upcoming schedule on the road and said, what are the toughest environments that you're either going to play in or have played in? And he rattled off some schools and some stadiums, but he did not include Georgia's Sanford Stadium in his just list of options, right? And it's so ridiculous on so many levels. As I've said before, Sanford Stadium might be the toughest place to play in all of college football right now. They haven't lost a game at home in 4 years. They beat down number one Tennessee between the hedges last year. They beat top 10 Arkansas, top 10 Kentucky. Right before they lost to South Carolina 2019, they beat a top 10, I believe it was, Notre Dame. It is incredibly tough to play at Georgia, and for some reason, Mr. Hemingway, who I feel like has been at South Carolina since the Lou Holtz days, he should know better. I mean, Georgia flat out dominated South Carolina 2 years ago, the last time they came to Athens. I mean, Georgia treated South Carolina like they were UT Martin, like they were Ball State. It was an absolute crushing, and that's what Georgia's done to South Carolina for the past 3 years. It has not been a ball game. They have been three blowouts from the start, and that was a night game. So Mr. Tonka Hemingway should know better, right? And I'm not saying he's a dumb kid. Maybe he just forgot. It would be hard to forget that, but he's wrong when he says that Georgia is not one of the toughest places to play in college football. In fact, Kirby Smart was asked about this earlier this week. They said, what do you think about Tonka Hemingway's comments, and what do you expect out of the Sanford Stadium crowd this upcoming weekend? Here's what Kirby had to say. He said, quote, "Yeah, I'm expecting it to be that way as far as a crazy, loud experience. People want to question whether our fans are elite. Sounds like Tonka called them out. So maybe use Tonka for motivation and let him be the one that spurns our group to come out there at 3:30 and be really loud and fired up. So I certainly hope our fan base will be there. They've answered the bell every single time. I don't know why they wouldn't now." And he's right. Every big game, Georgia fans show up, they show out, they make a lot of noise, and they make it incredibly tough for whoever's coming to town to play well, especially offensively. Now, the crowd isn't going to give that same effort, that same energy, that same, loud, screaming fans for UT Martin or Ball State. But I guarantee you, when South Carolina comes to town, 3:30, Sanford Stadium is going to be packed. It is going to be loud. I think the over-under for false starts is 5. They gave up 9 sacks to North Carolina at a neutral field. The offensive line is garbage at South Carolina. I think that's safe to say. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's garbage. They're really bad, and they are in for a rude awakening when they come to Athens, Georgia on Saturday. Desmond Ridder needs his offensive line to play well, or they have no shot. This game could be over by the half, and I think the crowd is going to be a major factor. Again, Tennessee's number one ranked offense came to Georgia last year and did absolutely nothing. The crowd was a major factor in that game. Tennessee fans don't want to hear it, but that offense had no answer for Georgia's defense and the crowd noise. It made an impact on that offense. And, people want to say that Neyland Stadium is this crowd crazy environment, and I haven't seen it personally. I know I'm behind glass up there in Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. I expect that to be a crazy environment. But the fans don't change the game, so to speak, as they do in Sanford Stadium. Because when teams come to Athens, they can't score. Most of the time, they have a real hard time scoring, and that's because of the crowd noise. I know at Tennessee, it can get really loud and crazy too, but Alabama had no problem scoring points when that place was, with the deafening noise up there. Alabama was still scoring at will. And, the crowd was not the reason Tennessee beat Alabama last year. South Carolina can get really loud and can get, crazy, right? But at the end of the day, for the most part, Georgia, or at least the last 2 times, 20 and 22, and in 18, really, Georgia's had no problem scoring in South Carolina. They've had no problem recently, really, in scoring at Auburn, which is another crazy environment. I've never been to the Swamp. But we're talking about Sanford Stadium, and it's hard to put numbers into play when you're talking about a discussion like this. But if you look at the record and look at the false starts and look at the decimal rating that the crowd has given, Sanford Stadium is without a doubt not only one of the toughest places to play in the SEC, but across college football. And for a guy like Tonka Hemingway, who has been there since Vietnam, it feels like, he should know better. And I think that it slipped in his mind. I don't think he answered that question trying to leave out Georgia Sanford Stadium on purpose. I think it was a mix-up because he knows how crazy it is. And I'm sure he was on that team 2 years ago at night when JT Daniels and Georgia just threw them around like a rag doll. Wasn't even close. Again, that could have been Vanderbilt out there for all we know. They could have had a V on their helmet. That's how tough that was for them to come in. And they're not going to come into Sanford Stadium and win this game. And he is going to eat his words. Now, I'll give him credit. It's not something that he said this week. That would have been even dumber. He said this over the summer, and he's wrong. And but as if Georgia needed any more motivation, right? They've got this South Carolina defender saying, well, actually, Georgia's not one of the toughest environments that we're going to play this year. It's, these other schools, right? Don't tell me about College Station, right? The 12th man, blah, blah, blah. That has not made an impact on any game. When's the last time Texas A&M won a game because of the crowd noise, or the crowd noise being a major factor in why they won the game? I don't know. But you could say that about Georgia recently. Ask Arkansas if they want to come into Athens anytime soon again. Kentucky dreads coming to Athens. Tennessee doesn't want any part of Sanford Stadium anytime soon. They're going to get it at some point. Don't think it's going to be next year with the different schedule. But, that game is circled because Georgia's going to get everyone's best performance, right? Georgia's the top dog. They're number one. Everyone wants to play their best against Georgia. But it's damn near impossible to do that on the road as a visiting opponent in Sanford Stadium, especially now with this program, this team, this culture that Kirby's built. As the team has gotten better and better, the Sanford Stadium crowd has got better and better too. And, before Kirby Smart got to Georgia, if you wanted to say that, Sanford Stadium is not one of the loudest, craziest, toughest environments to play, I would hear you out. But now, you can't say that at all. I think you can make the case that Georgia is the toughest place to play for visiting opponents in the country. And if you don't think they're number one, you'd have to put them at top 3, top 5, right? Nobody is playing as well as Georgia is at home, especially with a big game. Big opponent, SEC. They're not a rival because Georgia has mopped the floor with South Carolina for basically the entire series, but it's an opening SEC opponent, right? First big test, if you want to call South Carolina a test. And the crowd's going to be there. They're going to be there early. They're going to stay the entire game, and they're going to be very, very loud. I would be shocked if South Carolina gets to the 20 mark. I'd honestly be very surprised if they got to 14. They might find the end zone once. I'm not sure it'll be against the first team defense, but I might give them 10 points in this game. I think Georgia's going to hit over 40. Again, I think South Carolina is a little better than everyone else says they are, but they don't have a running game. They don't have an offensive line. Spencer Rattler is going to be running for his life. He needs that running game to be there to help him out. I don't think it's going to be there. They're going to be in a lot of 3rd and longs. There's going to be plenty of false starts. This crowd is going to impact this game. And Tonka Hemingway, after the game, is going to be telling himself, that was kind of dumb. That was not the smartest thing to do. Before I forget, as I wrap this video up, I probably should have done this in the first few minutes, but sign up to the newsletter down below. It is free to sign up. You can get all of our quality stories. You can read them every day. You get an email every single day. Some stories are premium, others are free, but it's free to sign up to that newsletter. That link is down below. We've got a lot coming. It's South Carolina week. We've been pushing stories out. 5 stars are going to be there. A lot of 5-star prospects, a lot of commitments, a lot of targets, not only in the 24 class, but in the 25 and 26 class as well. I'm still putting that list together. I get text, throughout the day of, prospects saying, Matt, I'm coming to the game. I'm going to be in Athens this weekend. I add them to the list. You can read that big story that's coming up over on Dog Post. But with South Carolina coming to town, with all these big-time recruits in town as well, I expect Sanford Stadium to be at a 5-star caliber level. It's going to be really, really tough for South Carolina to come in Athens and win, not only this year, but anytime soon or anytime in the foreseeable future. Thanks for watching this video. Always appreciate it. Hope you learned something. Probably not. This is just a general discussion type of video, but really appreciate it. Sign up to the newsletter down below. Enjoy the next video, and I hope to see you over on Dog Post.